cognitive dissonance. Is that what happens when the information coming in no longer fits? That's what I'm experiencing. I've been listening to, as you all know, I've been listening to Candace, Tucker, and Nick. Now, I have stories about how I started listening to Candace and how I started paying attention to Nick back in 2019, and even how I started paying attention to Tucker. In each instance, right, what preceded that was me writing emails to the media. When I started calling Nick my favorite YT nationalist in 2019, I'd already been writing the media for 2 years. The media that was targeting him. By the time I started paying attention to Candace, I had, again, been writing the media for quite some time with forecasts about the right being targeted. And with Candace, she was testifying at a hearing, and a Democratic legislator started going after her and calling her a Hitler lover and white nationalist. Isn't it fascinating? So that was a Democratic legislator that was doing that. And the data that he said, the information that he said, I paused and did a quick search, found out that what he was saying she said was not true. And that was the first moment that I was like, one of the moments that I was like, whoa, what's going on here? A Democratic legislator is targeting a black woman and calling her a white nationalist. Now, here's how you know that that narrative comes from one group, because they're narrating her that way again, but in relationship to what she's doing around Charlie Kirk, and pundits on the left that I used to pay a lot of attention to, and I do mean a lot of attention to, are narrating Nick, Tucker, and Candace as a white nationalist danger to all of America. And they're in a cult. These are the people I wrote for 7 years, telling them about the Capitol, telling them about, this is for educational purposes, telling them about the Capitol, telling them about different threats that we were under, the pandemic, it's both sides. That's what you need to know. So I'm in the background working to make my videos better, and taking care of myself and my health and whatnot. Pretty much everything that we're seeing happen was written in the emails and premonitions. So the only choice we have is to remain in the arena. You get knocked down, you get back up. Always. Always. And I sound like this because I am in deep mourning. I can look at what I experienced from 2016 on, or even just, existing in a liberal ecosystem, and understanding that there was no desire or effort to fight, to learn, to understand. And when I heard Chris Hayes on the Bulwark say that, they don't elevate people like Candace, Tucker, and Nick on their networks. No, they just target them on behalf of a foreign country. So that's where I'm at. The cognitive dissonance is deep. It's deep. And I will as I always do, suss it out and come back stronger. Keep in mind that as the left is being used, the pundits are being used to narrate Tucker, Candace, and Nick as a white teen nationalist threat. They are and have been requesting the Epstein files, no more war, and they've been speaking out on Gaza. So my question is this. And you can use ChatGPT. Use ChatGPT and ask how often the pundits, the political folks on the left, in the media, how often they talk about Gaza and what's going on in that region. Specifically, details. How often do they talk about it? How often do they talk about it? I asked ChatGPT how often they talked about it, and I got to tell you, they're going after Kamala Harris. They should be going after the media, because that's why y'all don't know about Gaza to the scale that you should know about Gaza and what's in our relationship with our best ally.
I am really begging for the real Christians in this world to research these men, to watch this episode over and over again, to consider what I am telling you, that there has definitively been an infiltration and Christian Zionists are at the helm of it. And I understand I'm at war now with all of them. That's fine. Okay. I understood that I was at war the moment Charlie caught the bullet. Okay. I get that. That what could follow? It's got to be war, right? It's either total submission or war. And I'm not going to submit to these demons. You need to wake up to what has happened in Gaza and what has actually been going on. And the scales may fall from your eyes as quickly as they fell from mine. On the topic of Israel, there is no justification. There definitively cannot be any godly justification for what they have done and what they have always done in Gaza. It is not new. It's not starting October 7th. Okay. This has been going on since they stole their land at gunpoint. It has been an effective Holocaust since 1948. By the legal definition of a Holocaust, which Norm Finkelstein will explain better than I do. And once you recognize the people defending that, beyond this, you will start to look at them as possessed by some sort of a demon. And typically that demon is just money. Okay. They just want the money. And the Bible is explicit about that, right? You can't have both. And like I said, God's chosen people do not endorse that. In fact, only Satan chosen people could.
Candace Owens, I believe it was last year, had a sit-down interview with Theo Vaughn, and she said something that really meant a lot to me, because it showed me that she's actually really reconsidering things and thinking about things. She said, oh my God, I realized, like, I've been brainwashed to hate Muslims, basically.
Yeah, it was very powerful. Actually.
It was very powerful.
We just don't see Muslims as like human life. And to me, to speak about Gaza and talking about casinos and hotels, and these people just lost their entire families, it's so far removed from humanity. And I think it's wrong, and I'm tired of America being used as Israel's piggyback.
The reason why America is allowed to be used as a bank, really, for these wars is because Americans don't know anything. We know I think about it now, the propaganda to make me afraid of Muslims. It made us think it's okay to just keep bombing Muslims. That was the purpose to me of that educational propaganda and brainwashing, is that we feel nothing for Muslims if they die. And that's so wrong. As a Christian, it bothers me. As a Christian, it bothers me that I allowed the school system to inform my perspectives, to not care about human beings.
Yeah. There was that's so powerful. That I just want to take a second to say I absolutely agree with you. That is very powerful.
Listen to Bibi's response, because prepare yourself. What he is saying is that they are about to launch a psychological war on Americans. Take a listen to what he says.
Christian influencers, okay? You said, we talked about the woke right, and you said, I call it the woke Reich. That's a brilliant observation. The woke Reich, because these people, they're not any different from the woke left. I mean, they're insane, they're beliefs. But they're actually meeting on some of the things. And what we have to do is we have to secure that part of the base of our support in the United States. That is being challenged systematically. A lot of this is done with money. Money of NGOs, vast. Money of governments, vaster. Okay? We have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers, I think you should also talk to them if you have a chance, to that community. They're very important. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. You know, the weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well, okay? And you can't fight with cavalry. That doesn't work very well. And you have these new things, you know, like drones, things like that. I won't get into that. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is class.
Followers.
TikTok. TikTok, number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one that's most important? X. X. Exactly. Very good. And, you know, so we have to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy. He's a friend. We should talk to him. Now, if we can get those two things, we get a lot. And I could go on other things, but that's not the point right now. We have to fight the fight, okay? To give direction to the Jewish people and give direction to our non-Jewish friends or those who could be our Jewish our friends. Are we going to succeed with everyone? No. Will there be a strong counterpart? Yes.
Okay, so like we're allowed to say Israel controls the media now. Okay, I think that's just like on camera now. There will be no dispute about this. The fact that you have a foreign leader, it's incredible. You have a foreign leader who is sitting up there saying that he wants his agents, he needs the deal to go through, which, by the way, let's call out Donald Trump right now. Okay, all of the acting. We don't want China. We don't want China to own TikTok, and I'm worried about your data. No, you wanted to hand it over to your Zionist friends. Okay, it was all a mirage. Okay, it was all theater. Donald Trump has sold us out to Israel once again. Okay?
Everybody's afraid of Israel, afraid of the topic, afraid in some cases of the state itself. We have not had an honest conversation about this ever, certainly not in my lifetime. And that suits the Israelis just fine. And if you're wondering why there's an awful lot of lunatic anti-Semitic comment about Israel online, you have to wonder how much of that is organic. Some of it, of course, there are always haters. But how much of it is not organic at all? How much of that, the lunatic, all Jews are evil, how much of that is being ginned up on purpose to make legitimate questions about the U.S. government's relationship with the government of Israel seem like crackpot stuff, like hate, like David Duke level lunacy? Probably some, because it serves their interests. Two things are interesting. One, there are very few kind of conventional Christian voices saying, wait a second, this is a secular government, another country, and it has probably nothing to do with my religion or anybody's religion. And we should never judge people on the basis of their immutable qualities because guilt and virtue are not passed down genetically. But almost no one is saying that. So you really have the ethno-narcissists and the anti-Semites, and they're at war with each other. That's the online picture. What's even more interesting and maybe even more distressing is that in the U.S. government, the conversation, while much more muted, is a mirror of this in that a lot of the conversation is about Israel. Israel, a tiny country in the Middle East. Not critical to our national security, by the way. But the conversation, the bandwidth, is consumed by questions of Israel. So wherever you stand on Israel, whether you're on one of the two sides just described or neither one of them, you know in your gut that this is bad. If a country like ours, supposedly the most powerful in the world, is devoting all of its time internally to conversations about Israel, it's probably not going in a good direction. There's probably a lot being neglected in favor of this very specific boutique conversation about this tiny little country. It's just not good for anybody, including Israel, by the way. So what's the antidote to this? How do you fix it? Here are 4 things you can do to make the conversation about Israel and the relationship with Israel a lot healthier than it currently is. Here are the 4. The first is get some global perspective on what we're talking about. The United States is a nation of 350 million people. It has some of the deepest natural resources in the world. That would include energy and water, agricultural products. The United States, however it's managed, is a powerhouse globally and always will be because its strength is inherent. It's a huge, decisive country in the scope of world history. The United States makes things happen. Israel is not an insult, merely an observation. By contrast, is a tiny and inherently insignificant country, at least geopolitically, in that it has only 9 million people and no natural resources, no meaningful natural resources. So it is insignificant. It is also physically tiny. It's about the size of New Jersey, famously, but it has a much smaller GDP than New Jersey. It is a much smaller economy than the state of New Jersey. It has an economy about the size of the state of Arizona and almost one half the economy of the state of Massachusetts or Illinois. It just doesn't really matter, actually. If you're looking at a map and thinking through, where does power politics go, Israel's not even on the list. Again, it's tiny. It's got the population of Burundi. It's got a smaller population than Belgium. What is this anyway? And yet, despite its objective insignificance, it is the focus of the conversation, but it's also the focus of the spending. So right now, as we speak tonight, there are 2 THAAD missile batteries in Israel. That's 1/4 of the world's total supply of THAAD missile batteries. The THAAD missile battery is an American-made, very high-tech missile battery that takes incoming missiles out of the sky. And 1/4 of the world's entire supply of these is in Israel right now, manned by U.S. troops, by Americans, in uniform or not. They are American military personnel, and they are manning these batteries to protect Israel. And that shouldn't surprise you, because since October 7th, 2023, which is a little less than 2 years ago, the United States has spent at minimum $30 billion defending Israel. Huge. And for some perspective, the entire Israeli military budget before October 7th was about $25 billion. So the United States has put at least $30 billion into defending Israel in less than 2 years. Over the course of its existence, a little less than 80 years, the United States has put $300 billion, at least, those are just the on-books numbers, into supporting Israel. $300 billion. Israel is by far, no one comes close, the largest recipient of U.S. aid over time and currently. So anyone who says, it's just a drop in the bucket, it's totally insignificant, is lying or doesn't know the numbers. By the way, number 2 is Egypt. So why are we spending so much money on Egypt? Well, we're doing it at the request of Israel. So you could probably add that to the tally. It's not an attack. It's merely perspective. We are spending our time, our money, and we're taking enormous risks on behalf of a country that geopolitically is not significant at all. The interesting thing is, most Americans have no idea that this is true. They don't know how disproportionate our attention to Israel and our spending on Israel is relative to the rest of the world. And if you want some sense of how disproportionate, India and China combined, neither of which is a strong ally at the moment, combined represent more than 1/3 of the entire world's population. Both are rivals economically, both are rivals militarily, at least potentially. And our relationship with them has gotten worse, or is at the very least languished, because of our relationship with Israel, because of the bandwidth consumed by tending to it, and also because of some of the inevitable conflicts that have arisen because of our support for Israel, which is engaged in an extremely controversial, which is to say hated war in Gaza, which is not even really a war. It's a massive displacement of people and killing on a grand scale of unarmed people, of unarmed combatants, of civilians, of women and children. And the world sees this, and the world rejects it, and the world hates it. And so Israel is unlike every other country in the sense that because the Jewish people are in a diaspora all over the world, there are significant numbers of Jews in Europe, but also in the United States. And because of their unique heritage and story, which is that they're a stateless people, they're unassimilable, they resist assimilation for thousands of years. And I think that's a good thing. And now they have this territory in Israel. There's a deep religious affection for the state. It's bound up in their identity, the story of the Exodus from Egypt, the promise of the land, all these things. So let's say in the United States, for example, somebody like a Sheldon Adelson, he's not Israeli. Is he an ideological neocon? Does he believe in the promise of democratic globalism? I don't think necessarily. His heart is in Israel. And it's because he is a proud Jewish person. And I guess what I'm saying is that if you are a Jewish person in America, you're sort of
and again, it's not because they're born, but it's sort of a rational self-interest politically to say, I'm a minority. I'm a religious ethnic minority. This is not really my home. My ancestral home is in Israel. There's like a natural affinity that Jews have for Israel. And I would say on top of that, for the international Jewish community. They're extremely organized. And many of them are critical of Israel or Israel's current government or the project of Israel. But I guess what they have in common, unlike, let's say, like Singapore, for example, is that they have this international community across borders, extremely organized, that is putting the interests of themselves before the interests of their home country. And there's no other country that has a similar arrangement like that. No other country has a strong identity like that, this religious blood and soil conviction, this history of being in the diaspora, stateless, wandering, persecuted, and in particular, the historic animosity between the Jewish people and the Europeans. They hate the Romans because the Romans destroyed the temple. That's why Eric Weinstein goes to the Arch of Titus and gives it the finger and takes a picture. We don't think like that as Americans and white people. We don't think about the Roman Empire in 2,000 years ago. They do.
Did not start this way for any of us. Do you think any of us, any of you watching, me, Tucker, Candace, Dave Smith, do you think any one of us woke up one day in America in the 21st century and we, out of a clear blue sky, became really interested in age-old anti-Semitic tropes? We woke up one day and started believing 19th century ancient tropes about Jewish people, these like anachronistic anti-Semitic blood libel? Of course not. We were pushed here. The Jews pushed us to this point. I will echo what Charlie said. You have left us with no choice. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to Tucker. That is what happened to Candace. For what? For opposing genocide? For saying America first? For wanting to close the damn borders? They are hateful. They are intolerant. They are the unreasonable ones. They are obsessed and preoccupied with Israel. And as Charlie Kirk said, you have forced our hand. As Charlie said, our patience has its limits. And now we're done. The goodwill of Christians, Americans, Europeans, it has evaporated. So your museums, your victim narrative, your oy veys, you can shove them up your ass. And we're looking at people like Josh Hammer and Mark Levin, and we're saying, listen, motherfucker, this is America. We're looking at Josh Hammer, this ugly fucking goblin, and we're grabbing him by his lapel, this tiny little goblin, and saying, listen, motherfucker, you can go back to Israel. It's America first, bitch. We're grabbing Mark Levin and saying, you had a good run here. You had a good thing going. Get with America or get the fuck out.